Recently, I asked my friends on Instagram if there were any particular topics they would be interested to see me talk about. And one buddy of mine, who is currently very interested in AI, suggested that I talk about how to survive the AI content creation takeover. Now, he and I have had a few conversations about AI, and we have very different opinions on how photography will be affected. He believes that photography is on its way out as a viable business model. He is seeing the writing on the wall and pivoting to an AI-based business model because photography will no longer be able to pay the bills once people recognize the untapped potential of image generation. And I don't feel that way. I so don't feel that way. I feel completely unthreatened by AI. It does not negatively impact my business at all. If anything, in my experience, AI has helped people to better understand the value of hiring a professional photographer, because when a company decides not to use a photographer and tries generating its branding images instead, it looks cheap and tacky and gross. And people see those images and think, wow, they definitely should have hired a photographer, thus drawing attention to the value of actual photography. So at first, I really didn't have much to say on this topic, other than I am unbothered. AI looks cheap and my art does not. There's bad things about it, there's good things about it, but I really don't understand people who make their whole personalities about either loving it or hating it. But my friend's question did get me thinking about why he and I have such different perspectives on this. His world is being shaken by AI, and mine is relatively unaffected, even though we both work as fashion photographers and are more or less both equally affected by AI. Now, I've been wanting to make an AI video for a while, but my thoughts have just been really scattered about it, and I was mulling this kind of question over in my head while I was walking home and listening to a podcast. And this podcast was just somebody who reads out scary stories submitted by viewers. I happen to consume a lot of horror media, okay? I love creepypastas, I love spooky stories and paranormal encounters and other forms of folk horror. I watch a lot of horror movies. I'm a bit of a connoisseur, really. And I'm listening to this podcast, which is basically a creepypasta about somebody who believes that their neighbors have been replaced by something. The new neighbors in this story look and act very similar to the old neighbors. They aren't dangerous or sinister. They are nearly identical copies, but they are missing some inherent human spark that the original neighbors had. Something behind the eyes is different. No one else in the story notices. No one else cares. They are silently replaced, and there's nothing that can be done about it. And that concept, in itself, was scary enough to make this a horror story. The very concept of being replaced is horror. Once I started thinking about this, I noticed this theme in almost every piece of horror media that I consumed. Backrooms, Obsession, Exit 8, creatures and places that are almost human, mimicking human, but off somehow. Famously Us, Get Out, The Thing, even Coraline, which terrified me as a child. The entire premise of the uncanny valley, which is this weird, hardwired revulsion that we have towards things that are nearly human, but not quite right. And it crops up everywhere, not just in horror. In sci-fi, we have androids, body snatchers, and Stepford wives. In folklore, we have demonic possession, vampires, mimics, changelings, doppelgangers. In conspiracy theories, we have skin suits, reptilians, body doubles, Paul McCartney is dead, Biden is an android, and someone else is wearing Jim Carrey's skin. We are almost universally scared by this concept of something we know and recognize being replaced, and no one else notices. In a lot of these narratives, life goes on, except something is very wrong, and you can't persuade the people around you to see it. There's a species of spider that looks enough like an ant, behaves enough like an ant, that it can persuade ants to lead it back to their hive, where it feasts. Now imagine that you are the one ant in that hive that sees the spider for what it is. How terrifying would it be trying to convince the other ants around you to react to it when all they see is an ant? And what would it say about the world if such things could happen to us? AI, specifically image generation technology, has opened the doors to a world where these primeval terrors are possible. It's not sci-fi, fantasy, conspiracy horror anymore, it's real. Our world has been infiltrated by mimics and doppelgangers. Fake people populate our online spaces, entirely fictional beings that look and act human, convince people that they are human. But they're not. And real people are living the experience of pleading with their friends and loved ones to please recognize that something has been replaced. Something is amiss. Please, you have to see the spider. A sad, AI-generated woman pops up on your homepage, and there's 2,000 horny uncles in the comment section trying to meet up with her. An AI-generated shoe store is going out of business, and crying AI old people are convincing your mom to buy their drop-shipped knockoff Uggs at a 500% markup. So then you go to the comments section of one of these posts, and it's mostly people buying into it it saying, "So sad you're going out of business. I bought 2 pairs." But there will be a few people pointing out that it's AI slop, and a few more people saying something along the lines of, "We get it. This is AI. You don't have to comment AI on everything you see. Just keep moving." You have to understand that for a lot of people, commenting AI slop on AI slop is a way of affirming that reality exists and is detectable. That the differences between reality and fiction are not negligible. You're letting people know that something is fake, even if they apparently lack the faculties to perceive it themselves, and you're finding solidarity in other people who can also see what should be self-evident to everybody. Because it's not just replacement that's scary, right? Replacement being replaced is scary, but it's replacement that no one else sees or cares about. The isolating experience of perceiving something that no one else can see, trying to convince others that it's real. And that's another trope in horror, right? Like we have ghosts, visions, visitations, hallucinating and being gaslit by the people around you. We see that in almost every piece of paranormal media. The protagonist sees or experiences something that the people around them miss. They are isolated in their experience of terror, often right up until the end, when they succumb to the force that has been privately terrorizing them throughout the narrative. And here it is. In reality, right? The horrifying notion of something else being convincingly human has always terrified us, but has only recently become a real scientific possibility. I kind of see why, with all of this in mind, you might see AI as an existential threat. I feel like this framework helps me to understand people who have what I perceive to be extreme reactions to AI. If you're faced with an existential terror, you might scream at the top of your lungs about the spider in the hive until everyone else notices it and rejects it. Or you might pivot your entire business model to embrace it. You're grabbing a hook and you're trying to ride the sandworm, right? Both reactions make sense in the context of this existential horror. I have an anecdote about AI mannequins online masquerading as human beings, and it is going to segue into a sponsored segment, but I mostly just wanted a reason to share this anecdote. So in my video last month about keychain cameras, I showed a photo on screen for about 4 seconds that was part of my collection of street library photos. There was a guy in the comment section who commented on this photo with an incendiary take about left-wing political violence because of the graffiti written on the library box. At first, I thought that this was just a right-wing nutjob, but then I told my partner about it, and he said that it was probably a bot who's programmed to detect certain phrases in videos. I agree, it's probably a bot. It's programmed to comb through who knows how much content and make politically polarizing incendiary remarks based on what it finds there. Now I know that someone out there programmed the bots to act this way. They do have human impetus behind them. But when we engage with them, it's not people that are replying to us, right? It's some soulless mannequin creature that exists only to cause distress. And is that meaningfully different than like the businessman in Exit 8 or the still life people in Backrooms? To me, they exist on the same spectrum of threat. Okay, and how does this segue into a sponsored segment, you might ask? Well, I showed you this clip from my keychain camera video, and you may have noticed that all of the little library photos are laid out in a beautiful little gallery. And in fact, I have added a few more photos to this collection since that video was made, and it's looking quite nice. And that is all thanks to the sponsor of today's video, PicDrop. Good segue, Yvonne. PicDrop is a photo sharing platform made by photographers for photographers. It allows you to upload and share your photos, and also offers a wide range of tools that help you keep your work organized and easy to access. With presentation mode, you can create custom galleries for your photo sets. You can adjust the header, photo size, and background color to complement your images and make a great first impression on your clients. Or you can flip your gallery into collaboration mode, where your clients and creative partners will be able to flag, like, comment on, and mark up their favorite images, which makes it really easy to communicate next steps, like publications, retouching, etc. Recently, I did a photo shoot with 7 models, and PicDrop's collaboration mode really made it easy to process their editing requests. PicDrop has a bunch of great tools for photographers like me who work with clients, but they also have some fantastic tools for keeping track of your photos on the back end as well. The collections feature allows you to sort photos without moving them out of their current gallery. You can comb through multiple galleries and add different photos to the same collection, which is super useful if you're putting together a portfolio or picking out photos to print. I find PicDrop super useful in a bunch of different ways, and I think you would too. So if you're interested in giving it a try, you're in luck, because you can get 2 months of PicDrop for free using my code YHanson at signup or clicking my link in the description below. 2 months for free, go and check it out, and I'd like to give a huge thank you to PicDrop for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so I feel like I have communicated the relationship between AI and replacement horror pretty well, okay? We get it, right? And after thinking about all this for a while, I started to interrogate my own perspective on the topic. Why don't I feel existential dread about AI? I'm working as a freelance photographer and content creator. I am allegedly at risk. The answer, and AI bros might call this cope, but the answer is that I sincerely don't think I can be replaced. I'm not scared of being replaced, or of the things that I love being replaced, because we are not replaceable. At least, not by the technology that they have now that they're calling intelligent. I'm not scared of that. I think I speak for a lot of us when I say that I have felt slightly grossed out by AI photography since the beginning. Like, the multiple fingers thing, the weird background details, the random eldritch terrors appearing out of nowhere, that stuff was all gross. But even now that the technology has allegedly gotten better, AI images still have that gross quality to them. Like, it's too smooth, too slippery, too flat, too exaggerated, I don't know. The people in AI videos are too earnest somehow, too expressive. The animals are too human. The backgrounds and surrounding elements are too curated, too posed, too eager to appear real. It's like this scene presenting itself to you, looking you in the eyes and begging you to be convinced. It is impossible to describe this AI grossness to somebody who doesn't see it. But if you see it, you know what I mean. It's the uncanny valley, it is unsettling and instinctively repulsive. And then, people use AI images for their headshot or their business page, their fashion brand, or God forbid, their cafe. The other day, my friend and I were walking down the street and we saw this sandwich board outside a cafe that was advertising AI-generated desserts that just looked so bafflingly gross. The croissant was like scaly and the parfaits were like, I don't know, something about the way they were placed or positioned felt like an anglerfish trying to lure you in. Like, it's a trap. It's like the buffet in Pan's Labyrinth, where you know that there's something wrong with it. I don't know how to describe it, but we both just kind of paused on it for a second, feeling equally baffled that the business owner felt like this was a good way to advertise their food. Like, you're trying to convince people to put this in their bodies. Why does it look like it came out of a fever dream? And you have food in your restaurant, presumably. Like, if it's not a trap, if it's not anglerfish just trying to lure me in with some false promise, if you actually have food in there that looks like that, just take a picture of that. Oh my God. It's baffling to me. I digress. I don't think that that stuff can replace what I do, what I make. The spiritual elegance of the consummation of the creative process that I bring to the table versus the vacant, slightly misogynistic mannequin people. I'm not going to elaborate on that one. It's apples and oranges to me. They are different products, different mediums, they serve different functions, and they appeal to different people. And like, I totally understand that some people don't see it that way, and they believe that I am easily replaced. Because for those people, AI is a sufficient replacement for photography. It doesn't look gross to them, they don't even understand what I mean when I call it gross. And those people are not my potential clients. I, as an artist, am not missing out on their business because they don't understand what art is. And if my photographs scratch the same itch for them as a slightly gross article of simulacra, they were probably never gonna pay me $300 an hour to make art for them in the first place, right? I'm not losing their business. Sorry if that comes across as rude or condescending, but like, this is what those people look like to me. They're gonna be the kind of clients who nickel and dime every single service because they don't understand why art costs money. They are the people who beg for discounts, who devalue the work by asking for 3,000 raw images so they can edit it themselves in Facetune. Like, I do have fewer people like that barking up my tree since the AI content creation takeover began, but I don't miss them. So if anything, I'm glad that they have found a solution to their needs that doesn't involve harassing photographers. Or their uncle, who can apparently do it for free with his iPhone. All of this stuff seems really obvious to me. I haven't felt replaced by AI in the slightest, and I think it's because I value art, like, as a concept, but also as a practice. And probably you do too, if you're watching this channel where I consistently discuss the creative process of photography and the role of photographic arts in history and politics. You probably value art, effort, and the creative process, and you can probably tell the difference between a croissant and a scaly eldritch horror holding a sign that says "Eat me." And I find this extremely reassuring. I fundamentally believe that the people who value my art will not be seduced by simulacra, because the ability to value art, from my perspective, is what prevents people from being seduced by simulacra. This is honestly so reassuring to me that the entire concept of AI replacing me feels absurd. So when my buddy asked me how will photographers survive the AI content creation takeover, My first reaction was just to shrug and dismiss it. But he is taking this question very seriously, and he's pivoting his business model to rely on AI. He's trying to monetize AI tools and moving away from photography because he sees the writing on the wall and knows that now is the time to get out. For him, I think, and others like him, the existential horror is very real. Even if they themselves can recognize the imposter, which I suspect he can, the simulacra, the facsimile for what it is, they're not confident that those around them can. And maybe that's the key difference between our perspectives. I have a very optimistic view of humanity, not of human institutions. Humans individually, in general, I trust people to do the right thing on average. So I trust that there will always be a community of people who value art and who value my art. The way that they ascribe value to it may change, sure, but my creativity, effort, and time are valuable, and I trust that there will always be people who recognize that. I know that I will never be the only one who sees the spider. I'll never have to face it alone. And if you didn't believe this, if you didn't have this inherent trust of the people around you, then I can totally see why the rise of AI content would be really terrifying. Okay. One more point that I'd like to make, and this is more of a practical point. I think the rest of this video has been about the psychology of AI, and now I want to express like the hard limits of the technology, just to super extra reassure you that you won't be replaced by it. I got this comment on one of my videos saying, now with AI, you can replicate any color grade of any photo into yours. Keyword, replicate. You still need me to make the photo and the color grade in order to replicate it. It's not replacing me as a creator. It's reproducing something that I have already made. My creativity is still integral for the operation. AI bros make these posts trying to have gotcha moments by comparing an AI photo with a real photo to prove that we're all exaggerating when we talk about how gross AI photos look. And yet, they have used a real photograph to prompt the AI to create the AI version. You need the AI image to be based on a real photo in order for it to look convincingly realistic. And this should go without saying, but that means that you still need the real photo to exist. About 1.5 years ago, I did a can you detect AI test for a video, and I got 80% accuracy. And I did an updated version of the same test recently and got 96% accuracy. So they say the technology is getting better, but I think it's actually getting more AI looking as it starts to feed on AI generated images. The images in this test that I got wrong were the ones that were clearly created based on a single original photo. This technology works best when it is directly copying a real image. And it works at all because it has a bunch of real images to draw from. So the people who create those real images aren't at risk of being made obsolete anytime soon. And that is like a hard limit in the technology. They would have to invent an entire other form of quote-unquote artificial intelligence, perhaps one that's actually intelligent, in order to overcome the need for real photos. AI, as it exists today, has no inherent spark of human creativity. It will never spontaneously generate a new concept, and it will always be chasing behind me, chugging gallons of water in a desperate effort to approximate what I create on a whim. And the people who lack creativity, who don't value art, who don't notice the creepy mannequin people and scaly pastries, who embrace a way to skip the process of creating and go straight to the final result, regardless of what that final result may look like, I'm not worried about them replacing me either. That is everything that I had to say in this video. Thank you very much for watching. I know it's a little different than usual. I was gonna try and structure it a little better, like more like a video essay with chapters and headings and things like that. But I just had too many different things to say and I couldn't work out a way to configure it like that. So whatever, maybe it's fitting because now you know that ChatGPT could not have generated the script for this video. Or any of my videos, really, because I enjoy the process of creating them and I'm not looking for a way to farm it out. Anyway, I do have an announcement that I want to make here. I recently started a Patreon. So far, almost all of the content that I have uploaded is available for free. It is a glimpse of what awaits you should you become a paid subscriber, or patron, I guess they're called, which you can do for as low as $2.50 a month. I have ad-free versions of all of my videos, including this one, slides from my film videos, some Patreon exclusive videos, and something else that I was really excited about, which is galleries of example photos from all of the different film stocks that I have shot in the last couple of years. So if you follow me mostly for my film photography content and reviews and things, then go and check out my Patreon because I have film rolls uploaded there from film stocks that I have not talked about on this channel yet. I'm also going to be uploading videos there slightly early, not that early because I usually post these YouTube videos right after I finish editing them, but a few days early at least. I'll do some patron shoutouts at the end of my YouTube videos, as well as some portfolio reviews and things like that. Lots of perks, lots of plans, so go over and check it out, if only just to peruse the library of free content that I've already uploaded there. Thank you all for watching. I will see you guys again in a few weeks, and in the meantime, don't forget to stay sharp and keep typing text into the large language model that will attempt to approximate a photograph based on your description. No, see, that doesn't have the same ring to it, does it? Don't forget to keep shooting. Bye, guys.